The day the ships came, the sky turned black, not from clouds, but from the thousands of alien vessels that blocked the sun. They hung over every major city on Earth, silent and waiting. Commander Dae-ho Kim stood on the bridge of the EDF Protector, Earth's largest warship. His face stayed calm, but his hands gripped the command rail so tight his knuckles turned white. "How many?" he asked. His second-in-command, Captain Subin, looked up from her screen. "Too many to count, sir. At least 5,000 ships larger than our biggest, and those are just the ones we can see." Dae-ho nodded. They had known this day might come. Earth had seen the signs for years. Strange signals from deep space, unexplained objects passing through the outer solar system. But they had hoped for more time. "All ships, defensive formation around Mars colony," Dae-ho ordered. "We make our stand there." Earth had only recently built its first Mars base. 200,000 people lived there now. If Earth fell, Mars might be humanity's last hope. The enemy called themselves the Galactic Hegemony. They sent a message to every screen on Earth in perfect English. "People of Earth," said a tall, human-like alien with pale blue skin. "I am Admiral Tae-sung of the Hegemony's expansion fleet. Your world is now part of our empire. Surrender and you will be treated well. Resist and you will be crushed." The leaders of Earth met quickly. Some wanted to surrender right away. Others, like Dae-ho, said they should fight. "Even if we can't win," Dae-ho told them, "we can show them we are strong. Make them respect us." In the end, they chose to fight. The battle for Mars lasted just 6 days. Earth's fleet of 300 ships fought bravely against thousands of hegemony vessels. They used every trick, every weapon they had. For a brief moment on the third day, it seemed like they might even have a chance when one of Earth's new experimental weapons took out a hegemony command ship. But in the end, it wasn't enough. Dae-ho watched from the broken bridge of his ship as the last of Earth's fleet burned. The Protector was barely working, with only enough power for life support and basic movement. "Sir," Subin said quietly, "we've lost contact with the Seoul, the Beijing, and the New York. We're the last ship, still fighting." Dae-ho closed his eyes for a moment. So many good people gone. But there was still something he could do. "Send the signal," he ordered. Subin looked surprised. "The surrender?" "No," Dae-ho said. "The other one." Subin's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded and went to a small terminal isolated from the ship's main systems. She typed a complex code and pressed her hand to the screen. "It's done," she said. 5 minutes later, Dae-ho sent the official surrender. The hegemony ship stopped firing immediately. 1 month after the surrender, Dae-ho stood before Admiral Tae-sung in what had once been the United Nations building in New York. The building was mostly intact, though the hegemony had replaced all the flags with their own symbol, a spiral galaxy with a sword through it. "Your people fought well," Admiral Tae-sung said. He looked almost human except for his blue skin and eyes with no whites, just large black pupils. "Better than we expected." "Thank you," Dae-ho said, keeping his face blank. He had learned that showing too much emotion could be dangerous around the hegemony. "The terms of your surrender are generous," Tae-sung continued. "Earth will become a protectorate. We will take some of your resources, but not too many. Your people can keep their cultures, their religions, their ways of life." "And in return?" Dae-ho asked. "Obedience," Tae-sung said simply. "And workers. The hegemony needs laborers, administrators, soldiers. Your people will serve." Dae-ho nodded slowly. "May I ask a question?" Tae-sung seemed amused. "You may." "Why, Earth? We're not that advanced. We've barely left our own solar system." The Admiral smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "That's exactly why. Young species are easier to shape, to mold into useful parts of the hegemony. In 100 years, humans will think of themselves as hegemony first, Earth second." "I see," Dae-ho said. "No, Commander, I don't think you do." "But you will." Tae-sung waved his hand, dismissing Dae-ho. "You'll be given a position in our Earth administration. Your military experience will be useful. Report to Grand Strategist Hanbin tomorrow. 5 years passed. Earth changed under hegemony rule. Giant mining operations dug deep into the planet. Space elevators rose from the equator, carrying resources to the hegemony ships in orbit. Humans worked everywhere in the hegemony system, but always in lower positions, always under alien supervision. Lieutenant Jiwoo Park walked through the halls of the Seoul Administration Center, carrying reports for her hegemony supervisor. At 32, she had been a junior officer in Earth's defense forces when the invasion came. Now she worked as an assistant to Sub-Administrator Velkar, handling human worker assignments. Jiwoo kept her eyes down as she passed a group of hegemony officers. They barely noticed her. That was good. In the 5 years since the conquest, Jiwoo had perfected the art of being invisible. She entered Velkar's office and placed the reports on his desk. He was talking to someone on his communication device and waved her away without looking up. Perfect. As she left, Jiwoo touched the small pendant around her neck. It looked like a simple family heirloom, a polished blue stone in a silver setting. It wasn't. Inside the stone was a quantum transmitter, sending everything she saw and heard to a receiver far away. Today she had seen something important. Plans for a new hegemony base on Earth's moon, one that would house planet-destroying weapons. That night, in her small apartment, Jiwoo whispered to the pendant, "Eagle's nest, this is Whisper, package." Delivered. The stone warmed slightly, acknowledging her message. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a base that didn't exist on any map, Colonel Sungmin Choi received Jiwoo's message. He stood in a massive underground hangar surrounded by ships unlike anything the hegemony had seen, or even suspected. "Is Dr. Yoonji back yet?" he asked his aide. "Yes, sir. She's in the lab. Says she's made a breakthrough with the zero-point energy system." Sungmin nodded. "And production? On schedule. Fleet 1 is ready. Fleets 2 and 3 will be complete within 6 months. Sungmin looked up at the sleek black ship hanging above them. Unlike the bulky warships Earth had fielded during the invasion, this vessel was elegant, almost predatory in its design. Its surface seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. The ship's name was painted in white along its hull. Vengeance of Seoul. "The hegemony thinks it's over," Sungmin said quietly. "They think we're beaten." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "They have no idea what's coming." Dr. Yoonji Kang had not seen the sun in 5 years. She worked in the deepest level of the underwater base, surrounded by equations, prototype engines, and the soft blue glow of holographic displays. Her hair had grown long and was always tied, back in a simple ponytail. Dark circles under her eyes showed how little she slept. Today, though, she was smiling. "It works," she said to the small group gathered in her lab. "The zero-point energy system is stable." Colonel Sungmin stepped forward to look at the small device on the table. It was surprisingly simple, a metal cube about the size of a coffee mug. Inside, a soft light pulsed like a heartbeat. "This little thing can power one of our ships?" he asked. Yoonji nodded. "For about 100 years without needing more fuel, and that's just the prototype. The final version will be even better." Before the invasion, Yoonji had been making progress on zero-point energy theories. The idea was simple, but the execution was hard, pulling energy directly from the quantum field that existed everywhere. The hegemony had similar technology, but they used massive generators that required rare materials. Yoonji's breakthrough made the process smaller and more efficient, and the hegemony had no idea humans had figured it out. "How many can we make?" Sungmin asked. "With our current resources? Enough for all the ships in fleets 1 through 4, Yoonji said. "But we'll need more materials for the rest." Sungmin turned to one of his officers. "Contact Whisper. Tell her we need more of the blue crystal material, as much as she can get, without raising suspicion." The officer nodded and left the room. Sungmin looked back at the tiny power source. "With this, we might actually have a chance." Jiwoo stood in front of Sub-Administrator Velkar's desk, keeping her face carefully blank as he ranted. "These resource shipment numbers are too low," Velkar said. his blue skin darkening with anger. The Grand Strategist expects a 20% increase this quarter. The mining operation in Africa has hit some technical problems, Jiwoo said calmly. The equipment keeps breaking down in the heat. This was a lie. The real reason the numbers were low was that nearly half of Earth's mineral production was being secretly diverted to the underwater base and the facilities on the dark side of the moon. But Velkar didn't need to know that. Then get better equipment, Velkar snapped. Or find humans who can work without machines. The hegemony's needs must be met. Yes, Sub-Administrator, Jiwoo said, bowing slightly. I'll see to it immediately. As she turned to leave, Velkar added, And Lieutenant Park, the Grand Strategist, is coming to inspect our operation next week. Everything must be perfect. Jiwoo's heart jumped, but she kept her face calm. Grand Strategist Han Bin is coming. Here? To Seoul? Yes. He's touring all major Earth facilities. Make sure your reports are in order. Of course, Sub-Administrator. Once outside the office, Jiwoo touched her pendant. This was important news. Han Bin was the third highest ranking official in the entire hegemony. Having him on Earth was an opportunity and a danger. That night, in a small apartment in what used to be downtown Seoul, Jiwoo met with another human who worked for the hegemony. He was a maintenance technician named Tae-jun, who had access to the hegemony's communication systems. Did you get it? She asked. Tae-jun nodded and handed her a small data chip. Full security details for Han Bin's visit. Routes, schedules, everything. Any idea why he's really coming? Not officially, Tae-jun said. But I overheard two officers talking. They're worried about something. Energy readings they can't explain, missing resources, strange signals. Han Bin is coming to investigate personally. Jiwoo felt cold. They suspect? They're not sure what to suspect, but they know something's not right. Jiwoo slipped the chip into her pendant. The information would be transmitted to the underwater base during her next check-in. We need to be extra careful, she said. No unusual activities for the next month. Tell everyone. Tae-jun nodded, looking worried. Is it almost time? The second wave? Soon, Jiwoo said. But not yet. We need to be patient a little longer. On the dark side of the moon, Captain Junho Lee floated through the massive hidden shipyard. Unlike the underwater base, the moon facility was built for construction. Here, the hulls of the second wave ships took shape in the vacuum. Junho pushed himself along a guide rail, moving past workers in spacesuits who were attaching weapon systems to the outer hull of the Vengeance of Seoul's sister ship, the Spirit of Busan. His comm unit beeped and he pressed the button on his suit collar. Captain, we just received a priority message from Earth, a voice said. Grand Strategist Han Bin is coming to inspect the planet. When? Junho asked. 1 week. Colonel Sung-min wants to know if we'll be ready for Phase 1 if needed. Junho looked around the shipyard. The Spirit of Busan was nearly complete. 5 other ships were in various stages of construction. Not as many as they had hoped for by this time, but perhaps enough. Tell the Colonel we can have 3 ships combat ready within 72 hours if necessary, he said. It won't be the full fleet, but it's something. Understood, Captain. Junho continued his inspection, moving faster now. They had to be ready. The hegemony might be getting suspicious, and humans would only get one chance at this. Grand Strategist Han Bin stood at the window of his personal vessel as it approached Earth. The blue planet looked peaceful from space. A perfect addition to the hegemony's collection of worlds. Admiral, he said, not turning around. What exactly are we looking for on this inspection? Admiral Tae-sung, who had commanded the invasion 5 years earlier, stepped forward. Inconsistencies, Grand Strategist. Resource production has been lower than projections. Energy readings from the planet's oceans sometimes spike unexpectedly. And some of our personnel have reported strange behavior among certain humans. You think they're planning something? Han Bin asked. A rebellion? Tae-sung hesitated. Most humans have accepted their place. But there are rumors, whispers about something called the second wave. Han Bin laughed. Their first wave barely lasted a week against our forces. What could a second wave possibly do? Probably nothing. Taesung agreed. But I've learned that humans can be unpredictable. Hanbin turned from the window. Well, that's why I'm here. To see these humans. For myself. I've never understood your fascination with this species, Admiral. They're worth watching, Taesung said quietly. They adapt quickly. The ship began its descent toward Earth, passing the hegemony's orbital platforms and defense stations. From this height, Hanbin could see the massive strip mines that scarred Earth's surface and the space elevators that rose from the equator. Schedule meetings with all the human administrators, Hanbin instructed. I want to look them in the eyes when they report on their work. Yes, Grand Strategist. Lieutenant Park will be your guide for the Seoul facility tour. Is she reliable? Completely, Taesung said. 5 years of perfect service. Never a single problem. Hanbin nodded, satisfied. Good. Let's see what these humans are hiding, if anything. As the ship landed at the Seoul spaceport, neither Hanbin nor Taesung noticed the small maintenance worker who watched their arrival. The worker touched a hidden communicator in his pocket, sending a simple message. The Eagle has landed. Jiwoo straightened her uniform as she waited at the landing pad. Her heart beat fast, but her face remained calm. Today she would meet Grand Strategist Hanbin, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. And she would lie to his face. Kwen. Door of the sleek ship opened, and 2 hegemony guards stepped out first. Then came Admiral Taesung, whom Jiwoo recognized from news broadcasts. Finally, Grand Strategist Hanbin appeared. He was taller than most of the hegemony, with darker blue skin that was almost purple. His eyes were large and completely black, showing no emotion as he looked around the landing area. Welcome to Seoul, Administration Center, Grand Strategist, Jiwoo said with a perfect bow. I am Lieutenant Park. I will be your guide today. Hanbin looked at her for a long moment. Jiwoo felt like he was trying to see inside her mind. She kept her thoughts, blank, focusing only on the tour details she had prepared. Lieutenant, Hanbin finally said, I hear good things about your work. Thank you, Grand Strategist. I serve the hegemony with pride. Hanbin smiled slightly. Do you? How interesting. Most humans say that, but I wonder how many truly mean. Jiwoo didn't respond to this. Instead, she gestured toward the main building. If you'll follow me, I have prepared a full briefing on our operations here. As they walked, Jiwoo touched her pendant lightly. The quantum transmitter inside was recording everything. Every word Hanbin said, every room they visited, every security measure she saw. All of it would help the second wave when the time came. Colonel Sungmin stood in the command center of the underwater base, watching multiple screens that showed Hanbin's tour from Jiwoo's hidden camera. Around him, officers and technicians worked quietly, preparing for what might come next. He suspects something, Sungmin said. Look at how he's asking about the resource shipments. His second-in-command, Major Hyun-ki, nodded. Should we speed up the timeline? Sungmin thought for a moment. The second wave wasn't fully ready. They had planned to wait another 3 months. But if Hanbin discovered their operation... Contact Captain Junho, Sungmin decided. Tell him to prepare for Phase 1 launch and send word to all our people embedded in hegemony facilities. It's time to activate emergency protocols. Yes, sir, Hyun-ki said, moving quickly to a communication station. Sungmin touched a control panel, and a large map of Earth appeared, showing hundreds of small blue dots, all their agents in place throughout the planet. Then he touched another button and a new map appeared showing the solar system. Red triangles marked hegemony ships and stations. There were so many. Are we really ready for this? One of the junior officers asked quietly. Sungmin looked at her. 5 years ago, Commander Daeho gave his life to buy us time. Time to prepare, to plan, to build. We won't waste his sacrifice. What he didn't say was that he asked himself the same question every day. Were they ready? Could humans really beat the mighty hegemony? He didn't know. But they had to try. Jiwoo was in the middle of explaining resource processing procedures when her pendant grew warm against her skin. That was the emergency signal. Something had changed. The plan was moving forward ahead of schedule. She didn't miss a beat in her presentation, but her mind raced. She would need to get to her emergency position when the tour ended. And these are the processed minerals ready for transport to orbit, she said, showing Hanbin a large warehouse filled with containers. Hanbin walked slowly between the rows of containers, looking at them carefully. Impressive operation, Lieutenant. But according to my reports, this facility should be producing 30% more than I see here. Jiwoo had her answer ready. The equipment we use is not as efficient as Hegemony standard machines, Grand Strategist. We have requested upgrades multiple times. Have you? Hanbin said. He pulled out a small device and checked it. Because I see no such requests in the system. Jiwoo's stomach tightened. This was not part of the script. Perhaps there was a communication error. I will look into it immediately. Hanbin's black eyes fixed on her. Yes, do that. Now show me the communication center. The communication center was not on the official tour. It was where the Hegemony controlled all signals going in and out of the region. Jiwoo knew that at this very moment, her fellow resistance members were probably preparing to take control of that center. Of course, Grand Strategist, she said smoothly. This way, please. In orbit above Earth, the Hegemony's central processing station hummed with activity. It was a massive ring-shaped structure that coordinated all Hegemony operations in the solar system. In a small maintenance room, a human technician named Minho checked that no one was watching, then plugged a small device into the main computer terminal. The screen flickered briefly, then returned to normal. But now, hidden deep in the system, a program began to spread, looking for specific security protocols to disable. Minho spoke quietly into his communicator. Package delivered. Miles away, in another part of the station, another human received the message and began her part of the plan. One by one throughout the massive station, humans who had worked quietly for years, who had earned the trust of their Hegemony supervisors, began to act. Captain Junho Lee sat in the command chair of the Vengeance of Seoul as it rose silently from its underwater dock. The ship was a marvel of human engineering, combining stolen Hegemony technology with unique human innovations. All systems operational, his first officer reported. Stealth systems at full capacity. Any sign they've detected us? Junho asked. No, sir. Their sensors are still blind to our signature. This was the advantage of Dr. Yoonji's technology. The zero-point energy system gave off a different kind of signal than Hegemony tech. Their sensors weren't calibrated to detect it. Begin Phase 1, Junho ordered. All ships, follow the plan. Remember, communication centers first, then defensive. Systems. Around the Vengeance of Seoul, 5 other ships rose from the ocean depths. They were smaller but just as deadly. Together they formed the first attack group of the second wave. For Earth, Junho said quietly as his ship accelerated upward toward space. For all those we lost. In the Seoul Administration Center's communication room, Hanbin was questioning the Hegemony officers in charge when the screen suddenly went black. What's happening? He demanded. System failure, sir, one of the officers said, frantically trying to restore the connection. We've lost contact with Orbital Command. Hanbin turned to Jiwoo, suspicion clear in his eyes. Is this part of your tour, Lieutenant? Before Jiwoo could answer, the lights in the room flickered and went out. Emergency lighting came on, bathing everything in a red glow. Hanbin's communicator beeped, and he answered it quickly. Report! Admiral Tae-sung's voice came through, sounding tense. Grand Strategist, we have a situation. Multiple system failures across the planet, and we've detected unidentified ships leaving Earth's ocean. Hanbin's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed as he looked at Jiwoo. What have you done? He whispered. Jiwoo met his gaze steadily. For the first time in 5 years, she allowed herself to smile freely. We call it the second wave, she said. Admiral Tae-sung stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching in shock as chaos spread through the Hegemony's Earth control systems. Emergency lights flashed, and officers shouted reports from all stations. Sir, we've lost contact with 60% of our ground bases. Orbital defense platforms are offline. Unidentified ships approaching from Earth's surface. Tae-sung's mind raced. How had this happened? How had humans hidden this from them for 5 years? Battle stations, he ordered. Call in the 7th Fleet. All ships prepare for combat. He opened a communication channel to every hegemony ship in the system. This is Admiral Tae-sung. We have a full-scale human rebellion in progress. Crush it immediately. No mercy. As alarms sounded throughout the ship, Tae-sung remembered his conversation with Hanbin about humans being unpredictable. He had underestimated them. A mistake he would not make again. Captain Junho's ship broke through Earth's atmosphere, leading 5 other vessels of the second wave's first attack group. Space opened up before them, beautiful and deadly, filled with hegemony ships that were just now realizing they were under attack. Status report, Junho ordered. Stealth system still holding, Captain, his officer replied. They can see us, visually, but their targeting systems can't lock on. This was their advantage. Ships that used technology the hegemony couldn't easily track or target. On the main screen, Junho could see hegemony vessels turning toward them, but their weapons, fire was scattered and inaccurate. Begin Phase 2, Junho said. Target their communication relays first. The Vengeance of Seoul accelerated toward the nearest hegemony communication station. Unlike hegemony ships with their bulky engines and heavy armor, the human vessels were light and fast, dancing between enemy fire with ease. Fire main weapons, Junho ordered. A pulse of blue energy shot from the front of his ship, striking the hegemony station. Instead of exploding, the station simply went dark, its systems overloaded by the human weapon designed specifically to disable rather than destroy. Station offline, reported the weapons officer. Moving to next target. Around them, the other, human ships were doing the same, racing from target to target, taking out the hegemony's eyes and ears. With each successful strike, more of the enemy's network went dark, but Junho knew it wouldn't be this easy for long. In the Seoul Administration Center, Ji-woo was now a prisoner. After her revelation about the second wave, Hanbin had ordered his guards to restrain her. Now she sat in a secure room with her hands bound, facing the angry grand strategist. You will tell me everything, Hanbin said. How many ships? Where are your bases? Who leads this second wave? Ji-woo smiled. You're asking the wrong questions, grand strategist. And what should I be asking? You should be asking how long you have before your entire fleet loses power. Hanbin's black eyes narrowed. Explain. 5 years ago, when you conquered Earth, you took our resources, our freedom, our dignity, Ji-woo said. But you left us our minds. That was your mistake. A loud boom shook the building. Hanbin looked up in alarm. That would be the beginning of the ground assault, Ji-woo said calmly. I'd guess you have about 10 minutes before this building is in human hands again. Hanbin grabbed his communicator. Admiral, I need immediate extraction. Static was his only answer. Colonel Sung-min watched the battle unfold on the large screens in the underwater base's command center. Phase 1 and 2 had gone better than expected. The hegemony's communication and sensor networks were in chaos. Human ships had achieved complete surprise, but now Phase 3 would begin, and this would be the real test. The hegemony 7th Fleet is arriving, reported Major Hyun-ki. 17 capital ships and over 200 support vessels. Sung-min nodded grimly. This was expected. The 7th Fleet was the closest major hegemony force to Earth. Is second. Group in position? He asked. Yes, sir. Captain Minji reports all ships ready near Jupiter. Give the order. Begin Phase 3. In orbit around Jupiter, Captain Minji Yoon waited with 20 more ships of the second wave. These were larger vessels than those in Junho's group, built not for speed but for direct combat. When the order came through, Minji stood from her command chair. All ships battle formation. Target the hegemony fleet as they exit faster than light travel. The human ships spread out, hiding in Jupiter's complex magnetic field, where hegemony sensors would have trouble finding them. They didn't have to wait long. Space twisted as the massive ships of the Hegemony 7th Fleet arrived in a flash of light. They were enormous compared to the human vessels, city-sized warships that had conquered countless worlds. "Wait for it," Minji said, watching the enemy ships gather. "Let them fully exit FTL. Now, all ships attack." The human fleet burst from their hiding places, weapons firing in perfect coordination. The Hegemony ships, still settling from their FTL jump, were caught by surprise. The space around Jupiter lit up with weapons fire. The human ships darted between the massive Hegemony vessels, targeting engines and weapons systems with surgical precision. "Remember the plan," Minji told her crew. "We don't need to destroy them. Just disable and distract them long enough for Earth forces to secure the planet." Admiral Tae-sung watched in disbelief as reports came in of another human fleet attacking his reinforcements near Jupiter. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Where did they get these ships? This technology?" No one had answers for him. On the tactical display, he could see his forces were in trouble. The human ships moved in ways that should have been impossible, making sharp turns that would crush any normal crew with G-forces. "Sir," said his second-in-command, "Grand Strategist Hanbin is trapped on the surface. He's requesting immediate extraction." Tae-sung made a quick decision. "Set course for Earth, we'll break through their lines and rescue the Grand Strategist." "But sir, the rest of the fleet will have to manage without us," Tae-sung said firmly. "The Grand Strategist must be protected at all costs." His flagship, the Eternal Dominance, turned toward Earth, its massive engines flaring. It was the largest ship in the Hegemony fleet, nearly 5 kilometers long and armed with the most powerful weapons, including the planet-killer cannon that could reduce a world to rubble. "All power to forward shields," Tae-sung ordered. "We're going to punch straight through their lines." Captain Junho saw the massive flagship change course on his tactical display. He immediately understood what was happening. "They're going for Hanbin," he told his crew. "We need to intercept that ship. It's carrying a planet-killer weapon." The Vengeance of Seoul broke away from its current target and accelerated toward the approaching flagship. 5 more human ships joined them, forming a blocking formation. But the Eternal Dominance was enormously powerful. Its first volley of weapons fire destroyed 2 human ships instantly. "Evasive maneuvers," Junho shouted as his ship rocked from a near miss. "All power to engines." He knew they couldn't match the flagship's firepower. Their only advantage was speed and maneuverability, and perhaps surprise. "New plan," he said to his crew. "We're going to show them something they've never seen before." "All ships activate phase shift technology," Captain Junho ordered. This was humanity's greatest secret, the technology that Dr. Yun-ji had developed by studying how the Hegemony's faster-than-light drives worked. But instead of using it for travel between stars, she had adapted it for short-range tactical use. A soft hum filled the ship as the phase shift activated. Outside, the Vengeance of Seoul and 3 other human ships seemed to flicker and blur. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, Admiral Tae-sung frowned at his tactical display. "What's happening? Where did they go?" he demanded. "Sir, the human ships they're still there, but our weapons can't lock onto them," his officer reported. "It's like they're shifting in and out of normal space faster than our targeting systems can track." Tae-sung slammed his fist on the arm of his command chair. "Impossible. Fire widespread pattern. They can't dodge everything." The massive Hegemony flagship fired its weapons in a broad pattern, filling space with deadly energy. But the human ships, phase shifting between normal space and subspace multiple times per second, avoided most of the fire. "Prepare the planet killer," Tae-sung ordered. "If we can't stop these ships, we'll make an example of Earth once and for all." In the underwater base, Dr. Yun-ji watched the battle on the command screens. Her heart raced as she saw the phase shift technology working. "They're charging their planet-killer weapon," reported Major Hyun-ki. "Estimated time to firing, 3 minutes." Colonel Sung-min turned to Yun-ji. "Is the system ready?" Yun-ji nodded, her face serious. "It's ready but untested. We're not sure what will happen." "It's our only option," Sung-min said. He opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Colonel Sung-min. The Hegemony flagship is preparing to use its planet killer. Captain Junho, you need to deliver the package now. On the screen, they could see the Vengeance of Soul accelerating toward the Hegemony flagship, dodging fire as it went. Good luck, Yunji whispered. On the surface of Earth, Grand Strategist Hanbin was being moved under heavy guard. The building shook as human forces attacked outside. We need to reach the emergency shuttle, one of his guards said. Jiwoo, still. Their prisoner smiled. You won't make it. My people control the landing pads now. Hanbin glared at her. You have no idea what you've done. The Admiral will destroy your entire planet before allowing humans to win. Maybe, Jiwoo admitted, but we'd rather die free than live as slaves. A loud explosion rocked the building, much closer this time. The door to the hallway burst open, and human soldiers rushed in, weapons ready. Lieutenant Park, their leader, said with a quick salute to Jiwoo, "We're here to escort you out." "And him?" Jiwoo asked, nodding toward Hanbin. "The colonel wants him alive. He'll be our bargaining chip." Hanbin looked at the human soldiers with disbelief. 5 years ago, they had been a beaten primitive species. Now they fought with a coordination and technology that rivaled the hegemonies. "How?" he asked Jiwoo as the soldiers secured him. "How did you hide all this?" Jiwoo looked him in the eye. "You never really looked at us. You saw what you expected to see, a defeated people. That was your mistake." Captain Junho's ship shuddered as a glancing hit struck its shields. They were getting closer to the Hegemony flagship, but the massive vessel's defenses were intensifying. "Phase shift failing," his officer reported. "We can't maintain it much longer." "We just need a few more seconds," Junho said. "Get us within deployment range." The Vengeance of Soul twisted and turned through space, taking hits but pressing forward. On the main viewer, the enormous bulk of the Eternal Dominance grew larger. "Sir, their planet killer is almost ready to fire." Junho leaned forward in his chair. "Deploy the package. Now." From the human ship, a small object shot toward the Hegemony flagship. It was barely larger than a human torpedo, but contained Yunji's most revolutionary invention. "Package away," the weapons officer reported. "Impact in 5 seconds." The tiny device struck the Hegemony ship's shields and passed through them as if they weren't there. It attached to the hull near the main power core. "Full reverse," Junho ordered. "Get us out of here." The Vengeance of Soul turned sharply, engines flaring as it raced away from the flagship. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, alarms sounded. "Something has attached to the hull," an officer reported. "Unknown device." Before Taesung could respond, the ship's lights flickered. Then the tactical display went dark. Then every system on the massive ship began to shut down. "What's happening?" Taesung demanded. "It's some kind of energy drain," his chief engineer said in disbelief. "The device it's creating a quantum link to our power core. It's draining all our energy." Taesung watched helplessly as his mighty flagship went dark, section by section. The planet killer weapon powered down. Life support switched to emergency backup. Even gravity began to fail. "Send a distress signal to the fleet," he ordered. "We can't, sir. All communication systems are offline." Taesung floated from his chair as gravity failed completely. Around him, his crew drifted in confusion and fear. The mightiest ship in the Hegemony fleet had been defeated by a device smaller than a human. Throughout the solar system, the battle had turned. The Hegemony ships, seeing their flagship disabled and their grand strategist captured, began to retreat. In the underwater base, cheers erupted as reports came in from all fronts. Colonel Sung-min allowed himself a small smile before raising his hand for quiet. "This is only the beginning," he reminded them. "We've won the first battle, but the Hegemony is vast. They'll be back with more ships." "But now we have their technology," Dr. Yunji said. "The energy drain device worked perfectly. We can study their systems, improve our own." Sung-min nodded. "And we have their leaders. Time to begin Phase 4. 1 week later, Grand Strategist Hanbin sat across from Colonel Sung-min aboard a neutral vessel positioned between Earth and Mars. Admiral Taesung, rescued from his powerless flagship, sat beside Han Bin. Jiwoo stood behind Sung Min, no longer pretending to be a loyal hegemony servant. "These are our terms," Sung Min said, pushing a data pad across the table. "Non-negotiable." Han Bin read the document, his face showing no emotion. "Independence for Earth? Access to hegemony technology? Trade rights? You ask for much, Colonel." "We're not asking," Sung Min replied calmly. "We've proven what we can do. Your ships can't detect our phase shift technology. Your defenses can't stop our energy drain devices, and we have more surprises if you force us to use them." Han Bin was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at Tai Sung. "Your assessment, Admiral?" Tai Sung had a new respect in his eyes when he looked at the humans. They fought well, better than any species we've encountered in 1,000 years. And they're right. Their technology present challenges we haven't faced before. Han Bin turned back to Sung Min. "And if we refuse, then we'll take the fight to you," Sung Min said simply. "We have ships heading to your core worlds already. Hidden, undetectable. We don't want war, Grand Strategist, but we will never be slaves again." The room was silent. The future of two civilizations hung in the balance. Finally, Han Bin picked up the data pad. "Very well. Earth will have its independence, and a place in the Hegemony Council if you wish it." Sung Min extended his hand, a human gesture that Han Bin had learned during his time on Earth. After a moment's hesitation, the Grand Strategist took it. 1 month later, Commander Dae Ho Kim stood on a platform in what had once been Seoul Administration Center, now renamed Freedom Square. Before him stretched thousands of humans cheering wildly. 5 years earlier, everyone had thought him dead, killed in the final battle for Earth. In truth, he had been hidden away, working with Colonel Sung Min to plan the second wave. "Today marks a new chapter," he told the crowd. "Earth stands free and strong. We have earned the respect of the galaxy." In orbit above, human ships patrolled alongside hegemony vessels. The new treaty was holding. Earth was now recognized as a sovereign power, its people no longer subjects but equals. The Empire had thought it was over when they conquered Earth. They never expected the second wave. They never expected humans to rise from defeat, stronger and more determined than before. They never expected humanity to change the galaxy forever. But then again, no one ever does.